Welcome to ECCB Connects. This week, we bring you one of the presentations from the Financial Information Month Retirement Symposium. Dr. Robertine Chaderton tells us how to prepare to make that smooth transition from work to retirement.
I want to begin by pointing out that if there is to be a smooth transition from work to retirement, there are three main issues to be considered. Financial well-being, and it's nice to get out of the rat race, but you have to learn to get along with less cheese. Because that's what it is. There's less money to do the shopping. Financial well-being. Retirement is the world's longest coffee break. We talk about time management when we're working. We also have time management in retirement. What am I going to do with all of this time that I now have on my hands? And then there's the emotional side. I'm retired. Goodbye tension, hello pension. Okay? So I've got rid of the stress, but I have to manage on less money, and that's the bottom line. So I want to say that financial well-being is dependent on the lifestyle that you live during your working years. What do you have to show for the years that you have worked? Do you have assets or do you have debts? Saving and spending will be the way that you can put aside what you need to live on forever, how long you're going to be around after you retire. Do you save regularly? And I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. How many of you actually save? Sometimes even. Okay. Well, I hope that at the end of this session, everybody in here will decide that they have to save, because you cannot afford not to save. If you don't save, how are you going to fill that gap that we talked about between when you leave work and when you begin to claim Social Security? Growing your nest egg. And the nest egg is the wealth that you will accumulate over your working life to see you through retirement. This is a discussion that needs to take place as early as possible. But I would say it's not too late to start now. Wherever you are, you can start. Your family structure. No two families in this room are the same. In some cases, we have two persons cohabiting. In other cases, we have one person in a house. But that person may have a responsibility for aging parents, for siblings who are at school, or in other cases we have extended families where lots of people live together or pass through to take a meal or a bath or whatever arrangement you have. And all of these things have a cost. So the family financial arrangements have to be worked out, and they're usually based on who has the earning capacity. And this is one of the reasons I believe that some persons are afraid to retire. They fear loss of status and respect if they cannot contribute to the household. Health. If you are in good health, you can continue to earn. So an investment in your health is an asset that you cannot ignore. And then preparation for retirement. We've often heard to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So if you can visualize from some of the things that we say today, if you can learn from the discussions that the older persons who are here will share with you during the break, then you may be inclined to take that preventive action and so enjoy your golden years. If you are nearing retirement I would suggest that you try living on a reduced income for about 6 months. See what it feels like. Once you know that you're going to be retired, start cutting back, cutting out, because that is what you will have to do. There are some things that you won't need to spend on, you won't need business clothes, but there are the things like the health which continue to change as you get older, and there is always a cost. So I would start by asking you, do you know what it costs you to live the way you do today? How many of you make a budget? A few. Maybe you're living from paycheck to paycheck, and that's fine when you're working, because you say, well, I can put off some things till next month. But when you're retired, it's a fixed amount that's coming in. So I would suggest that you look at your income, and when we talk about your income, it's wages, salaries, social security, dividends, and there can't be dividends if you haven't made investments. Interest, there isn't any interest if you don't have any savings. So you are looking at sources of income. And then you're going to take away your expenses. And I'm suggesting that you write these down so that you see what it is actually costing you. What do you spend your money on? There's some basic essentials. You have to live somewhere. You can't live under the trees. You have to have some form of transport, whether you're going to be taking the bus or if you have the car. There are costs associated with those. So I'm suggesting you write those down and make sure you understand what it is costing you to live the way you do today. There are the discretionary ones like the entertainment and travel. And while these are things that you will want to do in retirement, you may find that you have to cut back on them because the money just isn't there. So ponder on that. And when you go home this evening, discuss it with the people who live in the house with you. Discuss it with the people who spend your money. They may not live with you, but that income that we've talked about, some of it is going out to them. So make a note. And you may have to apologize and say, listen, I'm doing this because that lady, that gray-haired lady up at ECCB said we should start looking at the way we live and look at the things that you may have to cut out when you're living on a reduced income. You see, if you think about it before, you won't be so grieved when it actually happens. Because that is one of the things that affects older people. They say, I work all these years and I can't even afford to do this or I can't even afford to do that. If you think about it before, you say, I want to be able to live that way, therefore I must have something put aside that can fill the gap with what I receive from Social Security to be able to maintain the lifestyle to which I've become accustomed. Your income will probably be about 2/3 of what you earn now. So you know that 1/3 of it will be gone. And you have to say, which expenses am I going to cut out to fill in that 1/3? Because the money just isn't there. And let's face it, the banks aren't particularly nice to us gray-haired people, you know. They don't entertain loans. They look at overdrafts and they say, well, what is the security that you have? They want your fixed deposit. Right? So recognize that that's the way they're thinking and prepare yourself for it when it actually happens. What are you worth? And it's a strange thing. I asked, what assets do you have? I would suggest that each year of your working life, you look at what you're worth. List your assets and list your liabilities. Who are the people that you owe? Credit card, utilities, all of them. And see how you can cut them back. So that when you subtract your liabilities from your assets, you are worth something. Because if it should work out that the liabilities exceed the assets, you're worth nothing. You're worthless. And you don't want to feel that you work every day of 365 days and at the end of it you have nothing to show. So be concerned about what you spend your money on. Birth night parties, trips to St. Martin, the clothes, those are not assets that are going to be with you into your retirement, you know. So you really need to take these things into consideration from an early age and say, let me look at what I'm really doing with my life. What do you own? What have you invested in? I talked about a house, but that's just one thing. What about the furniture in your house? Is it something that's going to last you for a lifetime? Or do you buy the cheap, nice-looking things that break down as soon as the children jump on them once or twice? Right? I still have in my possession the dining table that belonged to my parents. It is quite old, as well as a rocking chair that belonged to my grandparents. And so I'm saying, if hard times hit me, I should be able to sell those things now for enough to keep bread on the table. Because at this stage, baby, that's all I need. Or to continue to go on cruises, because those are some of the things that you do in retirement. Right? So look at what you're spending your money on and make sure they're things that are going to last. Now, you see that person there's pondering there? That's you. How much will I need to see me through retirement? And how much should I be putting aside? Depending on what you put aside and how much you spend each year will determine how long your money will last. And you would like your money to outlive you, at least to be able to see you up to Springfield, right? So that nobody has to get a loan to put you there. Right? So think about these things when you are spending. There are calculations which you require to do to be able to work out how much you should set aside. This is not the time and place for it, but I just want you to know that it exists, and it is determined based on how long you have to retirement and, again, your lifestyle. When do you start thinking about retirement? A couple of people asked me that today, yesterday, last week, and I said, when you get your first job. I said, what? I said, yes, because if you start early, then the amounts you need to put aside will earn you interest on interest. Everybody here heard about compound interest, right? So it is interest on interest. And so the earlier you start, the easier it is. If you start late, the amounts you have to put aside are quite significant. Right? So tell this to your children and your grandchildren. When they start working, even if it is $5, $10, put aside something. Now this slide, whenever I show it, people open their eyes and say, what? I say, yes, you can start saving $2,000 a year, which is $166 a month. That's just one pair of shoes. Right? If you put it under the bed and do nothing with it, starting at age 25, you will have $80,000 between 25 and 65. And if you are wise enough to start putting it in some place that serves you, that earns you interest, and I've started with 2%, because that's all the banks are giving us now. You can see the difference, 80,000 and 177,000. That's starting at age 25. Notice as we go down the table, if we start at age 50, it's 30,000 as against 40,000. So the earlier you start, the better. If you're fortunate enough to find some place where you can invest at 7%, and that used to be the case not so long ago, you would see that in that first line, you will be a millionaire because it is 1196. So it just goes to show you, the earlier you start, the better. And I'm not asking you to put aside $3,000 or anything. $166 is what some people blow on a Friday night in Bastille. So just say, this Friday night, I'm not liming, and put it down. And you're well on your way. So it's not that difficult. Now we move on to the physical well-being. And sometimes retirement is brought on by ill health. Health is the joker in the pack. We don't know what we're walking around with. Everybody in here looks fairly healthy, right? But we all are carrying some kind of germ or disease in our body. Right? Do you know what your status is? Particularly when it comes to things like asthma and cataracts and heart disease and diabetes and Alzheimer's. How often do you get a checkup? I'm sure the ladies would say every year. The gentlemen are a little more difficult. They are usually having to be taken to the doctor. And so we have to take them on a regular basis. It's selfish, but we want them around. We need them. It's said that persons live longer if they have a partner. What do you eat? When do you eat? And how often do you eat? We are what we eat. How much rest and relaxation do you get? Rest away from the stress. Right? Do you have medical insurance, health insurance, as an individual with your company? If not, look at it, because if you wait until you are retired or retiring or when you become ill, it's expensive if you can get it at all. The emotional side. What is retirement in the traditional sense? It's some people sitting around waiting to die. They said, well, when you leave work, there's nothing. There are others who say, time for a new career. Let's get into things that we never had a chance to do before. For others, they're saying, time to do the kinds of things that I didn't have time to do. Visit with the family, travel, that kind of thing. But these things cost money. We look at a retirement process of taking a year to relax. You don't want to do anything, make some decisions. You can go for another 10, 15 years with some new activity, some new opportunity. Then you have the slowing down, and then you move into assisted living. And that's the question we ask. Where are you going to live in retirement? And who will be there for you? So often we are busy climbing the corporate ladder that we don't even realize that home has left us. You leave early, you return late. Yes, you get the big position, but when you retire, nobody remembers you after you. They don't even recognize your voice after you've left the office for 6 months. Take that to heart. A word to the wise is sufficient. Okay? Where you live depends on your condition. Can you live alone? Do you have persons to live with you? Are you going to forget that you've had the stove on? Are you going to put the phone in the fridge and you don't hear it? And this is not funny. These are the things that persons who have Alzheimer's get into, and it makes it difficult for them to continue to live on their own. So you need to keep the brain active, and you need to keep learning, to doing new things, so that you don't have that situation set in on you.
To view any episode of ECCB Connects, anytime, any place, at your convenience, check out our YouTube channel, ECCB Connects.
We've come to the end of this week's episode of ECCB Connects. Join us again next week when we'll bring you another presentation from the Financial Information Month Retirement Symposium. We look at financial planning, how to create, grow, and protect your wealth to ensure your golden years are truly golden.